Hey everybody, just a Mongo here. Today we have a very spooky video for you guys today. This is a Zombie World deck profile. Zombie World is probably about my third favorite deck. It's a really fun deck. It's also pretty cheap as well. I've been playing this thing for years, just on and off, and I figured I'd do an update video on it. Starting off, we're on two copies of Doom King Balderach. This is a really cool card. During the standby phase, of either player's turn. If there's a face-up field spell, you can special summon this card from your grave and defense position. Also, if a zombie monster activates an effect once per chain, you can either negate it or banish a monster from the field or grave. You can do both during the same turn, however, not during the exact same chain. This card is great, just keeps coming back, negates, pops, everything. He's the guy. Next up, two copies of Jackal Bolon, pretty much just for more getting stuff from your hand into the graveyard, summoning pretty much. Also, the one copy of Chang-Chi the Spirado. Comes up occasionally, it's a pretty neat card. Next up, we're on three copies of Unizombie. This is your bread and butter of the deck. This is what gets most of your play started. It's a really great card. We're also on three copies of Gozuki. He's kinda sorta a watered down Unizombie. He has some slight different uses in the fact that he's not a tuner, only sends one card from deck to grave, and you can also banish another zombie from your grave to special a zombie from your hand if he happens to send to the graveyard. He has some pretty interesting uses and all that, and he's also another way to start your plays. I'm on two copies of Banshee. Banshee's really cool because you can banish it from your field or grave to activate the zombie world directly from your deck, and that's also a quick effect as well. Also, if it's on the field, it pretty much just protects Zombie World as well, and it has 18,000 attack, which is nothing really to scoff at. It is pretty great. So you can either just use it to like get Zombie World, or even just sit on it and protect it, which I think is really cool. It's really underutilized just sitting on it. So, moving on, we're of course only two copies of Globe Bloom. When this card hits the grave, you can banish it and then special summon a level 5 or higher zombie monster directly from your deck if you happen to control Zombie World. If you don't control Zombie World, then it just gets added to your hand. It's also level 1 tuner as well, so you can do some pretty neat plays with it. I'm on two copies of Mizuki. You really only need two, I feel like. I feel like three is a little too much. Especially because there are ways to recycle it. I'm not playing too many of those cards, just because I want to keep this a pure zombie Halloween themed video. We're also need one copy of the Mad Mauler. Pretty neat. If you control a zombie and this card's in your grave, you can special it. Locks you into zombies for the rest of the turn. And then it decreases that monster's level by 2. So you can pretty much, let's say you have an 8 on field. You can special summon this thing, reduce that card's level by 2, and then synchro into an 8, which is really neat. Hand traps, we're on the 3 copies of Ash, the 3 copies of Ghost Mortar, and then finally the 3 copies of Imperm. The Ghost Girls are really cool in this deck just because they're both zombies. They're also tuners as well. Pretty interesting, if I do say so myself. Moving on, we're of course on the 3 copies of Zombie World. This card is really busted in my opinion. All monsters in the field and grave become zombie monsters, and neither player can tribute summon monsters except for zombies. It shuts down a couple decks with the secondary effect, but that's not really what we're doing with it. We're primarily using this thing as the floodgate, which comes in handy quite a bit as it combos nicely with Doom King, stuff like Bloom and Super Poly especially. Speaking of Super Poly, we're actually on 3 copies of Super Poly. Super Poly with Zombie World is a crazy combo, just turning everything into zombies, which you can fuse to make Nether Soul Dragon. We're also on the 1 copy of Terra, Foolish, Pot, and the Called By. Moving on to the traps, we're only on a couple. We're on the copy of Haunted Zombies, Warlords, and Anti-Spell Fragrance. We're on Anti-Spell because we don't play many traps, or spells, sorry. And the ones that we do, it's pretty much, you activate it when your turn starts with Zombie World, and you can set Super Poly. We're not playing too many spells, so it warrants playing, and it is good against certain matchups. Rivalry is really interesting because if your opponent happens to control a monster when you have Zombie World out, and you flip this card up, they're locked into zombie monsters, even if they have other cards in hand that aren't zombies. They actually cannot special summon things. So, because they control Zombie on the field, and Zombie Roll does not affect the player's hands, so you can essentially lock them out of summoning other cards. Haunted Zombies is a really weird card that I've been toying around with, which I quite like. It's a trap that reads, banish one zombie from either player's grave and special summon 2 haunted tokens, zombie, dark, 0 attack, 0 defense, with the same level as the banished monster. If this card is in your grave, you can shuffle one of your banished zombies into the deck, and if you do, set this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of Haunted Zombie effect per turn, and only one set turn. So this is kinda like a... It comes up occasionally just like to banish materials, which is what I mostly use for it. But it's also like just gives you tokens as well, which you can use for like plays and everything. So it's really interesting with that. It's a very slept-on card. Moving on to the extra deck, we're of course only 2 copies of Nethersoul Draco Dragon. This thing is a dragon, surprisingly. I don't know why. Um, but yeah, it pretty much just takes 2 zombies. You can just super poly to make this thing. It also gets a token if it does battle. I'm playing one Mind. What is that? Mind Castellan. This is from the new Megatins 2024. I'm trying this thing out. It's come up like once or twice. It's fine. It's cuttable in my opinion. We're also on Doom Kaiser Dragon Knights. I go on this thing occasionally. Immortal Dragon. I go into that thing often. Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon. Skeletal Dragon Felgrand. This card is absolutely nuts. It's a level 8. We're also on Red Eye Zombie Dragon Lord. Gashara. I'm terrible with names. This is Gasha Dokuro, the Skeletal Mayakashi. We're on one of him. He is a level 11, I believe, so it's just something to go into that comes up occasionally. We're also on the 1 copy of the Zombie Vampire, pretty neat card. One copy of Relinquish Enema. This really only works with Bloom if we have Dookie Dogwater hands, and we can just summon Air Bloom and then link it away for an Enema and then get that level 5 or higher. We're also in 1 copy of Sucker, the brand new Flying Mary, the Wandering Ghost Ship, the one of Endred Slayer, which really doesn't come up ever, and the one Yuki Onna, the Absolute Zero Mayakashi, which is a pretty neat card as well. So Flying Mary is a really cool card. It's a link to 0 attack, takes 2 zombies with left and right arrows, and you can target one of your level 5 or higher zombies as in your banished or grave. Place this card in the spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, and if you do, special that monster. While the card a continuous spell, you can target level 5 or higher monster you control. Destroy one monster opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. Which is really neat. It just revives stuff, so it triggers stuff like Sucker if you really want to. Also, it's Destruction as well, which is really neat. Revival, I think I already said that. But yeah, it's a really interesting card. I am a pretty big fan of it. I go into it very often. But yeah, that's the build. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great Halloween. Definitely take candy from strangers. Anyway, thanks for watching. Yeet.